Joining us now, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Republican Congressman Kinzinger of Illinois. Representative Kinzinger also was a pilot in the Air National Guard. Good to have you on board with us this morning. So is there a calm before the storm? What's going on with North Korea, especially given hearing from the chief of staff? They seem hopeful, but we're also dealing with a president that may say something that could set them off.
Yeah, I think, okay, when it comes to what the president tweets, and I've been critical of the president's Twitter, especially on some of these issues, but when it comes to North Korea, I'm actually not as concerned. I think there's a benefit that the president shows some unpredictability. If you actually have seen stories where it says Kim Jong-un and his regime have actually tried, unsuccessfully, of course, to Republican consultants to say, you know, what makes Donald Trump tick. It goes to show that they're a little worried about it. But really, the president and the administration's audience in some of these things with North Korea is not even Kim Jong-un, it's China. And it's like, hey, we're very serious about the fact that this could lead to a military strike. We don't want it to. You're the linchpin in this, so let's get this situation handled before we find out that we have a regime and a crazy dictator in charge that can exceed our capability to defend ourselves against a missile attack.
Richard?
Well, Congressman, you call him a crazy dictator, but isn't there some logic to what he's doing? The president's made all these threats against him. He saw what happened to Ukraine once it gave up its nuclear weapons. He saw what happened to Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein. So isn't there a certain logic to North Korea's behavior that having nuclear weapons and missiles might be the best way to preserve the regime?
Yeah, I mean, that would be really an accurate statement if he started his nuclear weapons program after we took Gaddafi out or after Ukraine. This has been going on for 25 years. In fact, it was under President Clinton when we were a few days shy of a military strike, more than likely, and Jimmy Carter pops up in the North Korean regime, which he's floated going back again, by the way. So, yeah, that would be accurate if this has been a 10-year program. It's been 25 years. And we have tried for a very long time to get to a diplomatic solution, and it is still my fervent prayer and hope, frankly, that we can get there. But you can't do it by simply saying we have to understand where the North Koreans are coming from. We have to reach out our hand of, you know, blessing and joy to them. It's going to take a very strong, serious approach to say there is a military option. We hope we don't get there, and hopefully the Russians and the Chinese take this seriously and can actually put some coercive diplomacy down.
Yeah.
Congressman, what is your understanding of the administration's North Korea strategy? And the reason I ask that question is, yes, they say they're going to prevent them from getting the capacity to hit the U.S. mainland with a nuclear weapon, that would be intolerable. I was at the UN General Assembly, spoke to a senior official who said something that sounded to me, they wouldn't use the word containment, but it sounded a little bit like it was creeping in that territory. It was, we don't think this guy's suicidal. There's a reason he's firing missiles in the range of Guam, but not at Guam. And that led me to think, okay, well, maybe they're going down this deterrence path. What's your understanding of what they're going to do?
You know, it hasn't been articulated, and I don't know if that's from a fact of they don't necessarily know what the end game is on this yet, or, you know, look, this kind of a thing is an art, not a science. I mean, the reality is to pull the trigger, so to speak, and say, you know, diplomacy is not working now, military is the only option. That's a big decision. I don't think we're there yet. What we've seen is diplomacy is having an effect. I say diplomacy coupled with sanctions, diplomacy against an adversary. In terms of what the end game is, I don't know, but I will say this. If we allow North Korea to basically fully develop a nuclear capability, including reentry on an ICBM, next is Iran, by the way, and next is every regime that wants a nuclear weapon. How in the world are you ever going to stop them when you couldn't stop North Korea? So trust me, none of us out here, including me, and I think the president too, is rooting for a military strategy and a military end to this. But when you look at the future timeline of history, if that's the right word, the problem with North Korea getting a nuclear weapon and what could potentially proliferate from there is very frightening indeed.
That's all fine, but do you think the will is there to stop them having the capacity to hit the mainland? Do you think they will intervene before that point, or do you think we'll be in a situation where we say, you know what, they're not going to fire something because we'll fire it out of the air and destroy your entire country? What's your sense?
Yeah, my sense, I don't know. My sense is, you know, is there a red line? What's the red line? I don't know. I have not talked to the administration about this. I do believe, though, and I want to be very clear, they're very serious about fixing this and not simply moving to a containment strategy. Because again, if we have the ability to intercept intercontinental ballistic missiles, it's a new technology, by the way. It's been tested, but that's about the extent of it. They can eventually exceed by numbers of missiles our ability to defend ourselves. So it's something to take into account. But I don't know what that red line is. That's something that the administration would have to answer, and they probably wouldn't.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger.